When working with shots, I usually have several asset group in the outliner. This one here, I have a shot camera group and then a characters group where I usually put all the characters under this group, and also the properties are like probably the shot has a properties in it. And the next one is the environment group where I put all the environments under this group. And the last one is the lighting. Usually I separate the lighting at least two different group, like the global lighting for the stats and then the character lighting for the characters. But you can also expand this group, like probably you will have like a vehicles group and also FX group. And another thing is that Vray has an, a special object properties that you can assign, which is really helpful for overriding all the visibility or all the settings for that assets that involved under this Vray object properties. Like here I have like VOP, like for Vray object properties, and I put all the characters under this Vray object properties, and then I also have an environment and props which I separate so I can control their visibility later on in the render layers. And another thing is the light select, where I usually separate all the lights like for especially for the characters here. And then I'm sorry, I probably broke this group. This should be here. Alright, so yeah, basically I have three different light select which consists of key, fill, and rim light. That's basically what I usually did for shot lighting, for managing those assets in the shots. And then we're gonna go to render setup, where usually here I have the master layers, and then on the render setting we can see that I have several render elements that like a Cryptomat, which using a Cryptomat I call it Cryptomat Assets. I will go deep inside when I talk about the individual render layers, but in the master layer or in the scene or master layers, usually what we call, I disable all the render elements, so we can then later on override in the render layers itself. So yeah, here I have a characters where basically if you don't know how to make the render layers, you just click this icon here and put your render layers name, and then I have a collection where by right clicking here and create collection, you will then name your collections based on these render layers. So I will delay this and I will just go straight to explain what I did in this examples. So usually what we have in the render layers is the geo itself or the asset. I usually call the collection using a first letter of the render layer, so I know that it's different from the other render layers. So like here I have a C geo where I add all the like right here, if I just remove it, I just grab this guy and then add those here. Basically if I change my visibility to this render layers, you can see that all the geo it's basically the same with the master layers. But then now I also have the Vray object properties collections, which I combine both of the characters and the props. And for environment, I separate the collection so I can do a primary visibility off in the environments, as you can see here, right? So how to do that? It's just simple thing like create a collection, and let's say C VOP props, and then you just grab this one and then add here, but it's gonna be gray, so you're gonna want to set it as custom, and then by looking at this one, Vray object properties, you just type this one, Vray object properties. So I already have one here, so I just copy it from the one that I created before. So you will see these proper icon that indicate the Vray object properties. And after that, you can play with the visibility, like you can right click and create absolute override for visible layers, so you can tweak the primary visibility based on individual render layers. So yeah, I will just delete it so I can just focus on what we have here. So yeah, I have VOP characters and props, and then the environments where I did a primary visibility off. So as you can see here, I will show you what the final render looks like for the characters render layers. So this guy over here is the characters and the props, but you will see that this black is because the object is under the floor, as you can see here. See, this object is under the floor, and then that is why the render is black like this. But no worries, we will do a cut later on. And alright, so geo VOP cars and props, which I combine in single collections, and environments, and then the other one is the global lighting, but it's not like a really global lighting. It's, I mean, this one, because I still need the dome light for the characters. I just close this one, and then yeah, I still need this Vray dome light for the characters, so I just did an absolute override visibility for the directional lights. As you can see here, if I go to display tab on the visibility attribute, you can see that I put a directional light here and then turn off the visibility, so there's no directional lights in this characters render layers. And also I make sure that the characters lighting is set here, so I just make sure that the lighting, the character lighting, and the dome is affecting the characters. Sorry. And yeah, the other one is that I have an AUVs, or the render elements that is called in Vray. So the AUVs that I activated is the denoiser, and then light select, which you can find here, light select, and light select key, light select fill, and light select rim, which consists yeah, key light, fill light, and rim light. And the denoiser is just the default setting that I use. And what else? Yeah, LV is just like that. And for the default render setting, I just use a standard Vray default setting, like this one, and GI settings. So Yeah, and EXR is 16 bits per channel. And what else? Yeah, that's just it for the characters layers or render layers. And the next one is the environment, where I can show you that the environments only has a geo that is environments. There is no characters and properties in it. If you want to see the final render, it's gonna be look like this, right? There is no characters or props in this environment, so if the camera is still, you can just render the environments on single frames, not really need like a full frame render. So that's gonna save your time. All right, and the global lighting, I just put the global lighting group. I just add this one here. And then for the characters lighting, as you can see here, is grayed out because the visibility is off for the character lightings. So no character lightings in this environment. Right, so the next one is quite interesting because we're gonna involve some settings for environments. So as you can see here that the shadow geo only all the assets, characters, properties, and environments. But then on the VOP characters and props, I did a primary visibility off, right? On the on the props and then characters, as you can see here, primary visibility off for both of them. So the characters and props will not visible, but then the shadow and all the secondary rays will affect the shadow. And then the other one is the environments, where the environment is quite different. The environment here, where the VOP environments has a matte surface, alpha contribution -1, like this setting basically, right? So the idea is to, if you see right here, I just only have the alpha channel becoming our shadow pass, right? So yeah, and uh, that's for the environments. And the next one is the global lighting, where I need the global lighting for the shadow to cast on the environment. So but the character lightings, I also did a primary visibility, sorry, not primary visibility, but the visibility of for this group, right? And there's also a Vray render setting collection where I did several override for the materials and the GI. So I don't need any GI for the shadow render layers. And also I activate the extra text contact occlusion, which you can see here that the render looks like this. This one is using extra text, which is like a custom textures render elements, like as you can see here, where let's say I gonna make one, right, for you, just for examples. And this one extra text, I can just grab the textures and then assign a Vray dirt, and then I just flip the occluded and uncluded, so I can get the black for because I want to do a mask on the comb later on, so I just inverted the ambient occlusion, so it looks like this. So yeah, if you can see here that I have the V-Ray and I'm affecting the environments, result affect environment, and then turn off the as inclusive sets, right? So what else? That's pretty much it for what is this? Yeah, basically this one. Yeah, this one is gonna be enable, like from here you just right click and create absolute override for the shadow. So the shadow path will gonna look like this, this one for the combine, and for the alpha, which we'll use for the alpha, and then the contact occlusion, contact ambient occlusion, and then the last one is utility render layers, where usually I put all the utility paths under these layers. Right now we have all the geometry, or all the assets, and then we also have a override Vray render setting, where I just turn off the light, materials, and the textures, and also GI. I don't need any GI. And for the AOVs, or the render elements, I create a Cryptomat Assets, which you can create it by assigning this Cryptomat, or adding this Cryptomat, like so, and then you just name your, like, let's say you call it characters, or assets, like just what I did, assets, and then you just put this one. This one is really important. Right now, if it's assets, you wanna make sure that you turn on the Vray user attribute, and then this user attribute name you need to copy paste, and then put under your characters, or whatever you want, like characters, like here, and then assign the user attribute, and then just do something like this: Cryptomat name equals string, like yeah, a single quote, and then call it chars, and then for the properties call it props, and for environment call it environments. But the ideal thing is to for the asset is, usually if you use a reference assets, you're gonna use this one, asset, instead of Vray user attribute, because if you use Vray user attribute, then you will need to put it under the actual asset name, like this one or this one, not the group, right, like I did here, because yeah, this one's gonna override all the characters. What we call the Cryptomat asset is that every single asset's gonna have their own Cryptomat. Okay, so yeah, that's about Cryptomat assets. And then Cryptomat object, where I change to node name with hierarchy. So another one, the ambient occlusion, also the same with the what else, sorry, this one, I don't think I need this one, because I just created. Okay, sorry, for the ambient occlusion, I also assigned with Vray dirt, and I also invert it because I want to do a mask later on. And then the other one is Fresnel, which is I just assigned the Vray Fresnel, and this one is velocity to generate the motion blur later on, and also normals. This one is basic, like you just put a normal in here. And the other one is multimat. You can also use a Cryptomat, like using Vray user attribute, but using a multimat, it's just another way to make a mat. And the other one is the word filter and word non-filter, which this one is using a different sampler info. Like if I just where is it, utilities, sampler info, right? So this sampler info, if I select this one, I just create an additional output where we're gonna have point word reference. So if I go back to the word filter, I assign this Vray sampler to here, and then I just grab the Vray point word reference to the R, X for R, Y for G, and Z for B. So that's pretty much it for the point word or point position. And why I have two? Because I want to have the one with filter and the one with non-filter, because the non-filter we're gonna work smoothly for the depth of field in the compositor, especially in Nuke. Alright, so yeah, that's pretty much it. If you wanna see what the utility gonna look like, it's just like this. It's the combine, and I just because I use Filmic, that's gonna be quite different, right? Something like this. Unfiltered Cryptomat Assets. This guy is just you're just gonna use a Cryptomat if you wanna use this one, right? Cryptomat Assets, and put your characters and just click and you get a mat, right? So I'm just using a lower sample, so it's not really matter right now. So the important thing is that the AO and Fresnel, right? As you can see that there's an AO, Fresnel, and multimat here, and also normals. And when you combine with the characters, you're gonna want to separate or like right now it hasn't cut, but by using a multimat or Cryptomat as you want, you can add them together and then set an alpha, so before, after, so it's gonna be cut by the mat. And for the environment, something like this, and then we have a alpha for the shadow, and then we have the contact occlusion, where I use a color balance here. This is just the way that Blender works with Filmic. I just go back to Filmic, so our range is gonna quite a big. So yeah, this one is using an alpha, and then this one is using contact occlusion, right? See this one and this one and this one, and then after that you just do several color corrections, and then later on you will just combine it together, right? So this is the environment results, and then this is the characters, and then you just yeah, whatever you want with the. So basically right now you can just sorry, I think this one is an alpha, yes. See, you can do a color correct on your shadow. I'm not saying that this one is accurate, but then you can save a lot of time when you have a big productions where you separate the shadow. So yeah, this is it. I hope you guys get something from this video. If you like, give me a thumbs up, and please let me know what you think in the comment below. See you guys.